And welcome back to the Behind the Dunes podcast. I'm your host, Connor. Today I'm here with one of the newest agents at Dunes Real Estate, Brian Kinard. Brian, how are you?
I am well, man.
So we're just going to start off and we're going to start back. Who are you? Where'd you grow up? And where are you from?
All right. So the readers, not the story, where I came from, where I was born. I was born in Pasadena, Texas, outside of Houston. Lived there until I was about 18, 19 years old. At that point, I moved down to the Florida Keys and kind of discovered a new life, if you will. Back up just a second. A life event kind of caused that. Lost my father when I was about 13 years old. So just my mom and I after that. Kind of had a deal that she wouldn't remarry or do anything like that until I graduated high school. So I graduated in May of 96, and June 1st of 96, she was gone to the Keys. I stayed behind in Texas and worked at a Western wear store and saddle shop with some friends and competed in rodeos. I showed animals in high school, and I always had an interest in that stuff. Fast forward a couple years into going to college, decided I wanted to try a new adventure, went down to the Keys, and that is where I fell into a job on parasail boats and renting jet skis and just general tourist boats in a water destination. And that basically injected salt water in my veins, and I have not looked back from that on just loving to be in coastal areas.
So taking it back, when you were living in Texas, how was that?
It's good. I mean, it's typical, normal Texas upbringing. I didn't ride a horse to school, but I definitely had a horse. I raised animals for livestock shows, pigs, sheep, things like that. Just had the normal, Texas kind of outside of a major city lifestyle.
Did you play any sports?
I didn't. I was not the biggest feller in school, and as you can imagine, in Texas, the football program and the corn-fed boys are they're big, and I decided not to get hit by those guys.
Smart decision.
So I decided to go rope calves and jump off the back of a running horse and do that.
So, what made you want to do that? How'd you get into that?
Quite frankly, by working at the Western wear store. I started showing animals in livestock shows to the 4-H and FFA programs. That introduced me to that kind of lifestyle, if you will, which turned to my job at the Western wear store. And the man, Larry, who owned the store, was a professional calf roper back in the day. His son and I were roughly the same age. And so I just, by virtue of wanting to do things that the people I looked up to and was around were doing, I kind of got into that.
How does one get into that? Do they have entry level things? Because I know there's full competition.
Yeah. So the way, think about it, Miss Texas in the 90s, so a little different than today. So I definitely didn't have a spot on the team. I definitely didn't get any participation trophies or anything. Quite frankly, I started by mowing the yard and taking care of cleaning the stalls out and basically being the laborer around the property,
right?
Showing my interest, and then that led to basically standing on the ground with the rope in your hand, roping a stationary dummy, and then you just kind of progress from there, learning to ride the horse, putting all these components together.
Right.
I would call it a very kind of old school way. I mean, I definitely had to, number one, do the crappy jobs first to kind of get my little spot, if you will, and show that I wanted to learn, do these things. Once that was expressed and shown and I started bringing value to the table, if you will, by doing those things, I got more opportunities to get on the back of horses and things like that. And that led to me getting my own horse and competing. Now, much like football, rodeo in Texas is very competitive.
Yeah.
So I would not say that I was highly competitive or winning a lot of awards or anything like that, but I was 100% engaged and in love with that lifestyle, just going and traveling around the state and meeting other people of like mind and competing against each other, learning from each other, and just having those shared experiences.
That's super cool. I've actually never talked to anybody that's ever done that.
Yeah.
So like, I'm just curious about like, how do you get into it? Like, cause like football or like other sports, you obviously have like the Pop Warner stuff and they like teach you the basics, but like that makes sense of basically like earning your keep and like starting from the ground up.
Yeah. So there is a high school, rodeo programs.
Oh, they actually have
they actually have high school rodeo programs. There's youth rodeos and things like that.
Yeah.
And it's like most other things, right? The kids whose parents do it or who a friend does it, they start doing it. And so that's kind of the trajectory. But basically, competing in rodeos in Texas would be like trying to be a competitive golfer on Hilton Head Island, right?
Yeah.
You're surrounded by some of the best. And so it was fun. It was a lot of fun. It definitely, most certainly gave me a lot of the work ethic and that just can-do attitude. Really kind of started from that.
That's actually awesome.
Yes.
So then after high school, you said you went to the Keys.
Mm-hmm.
Did you pursue any education after high school or?
So I went to a junior college in Texas for a couple years after high school, maybe a year and a half. I was not the best student. I think my mom saw this. She's a pretty realistic person. So she's the one that said, hey, you should come to the Keys, check out something different. I went down there looking for a job in a restaurant or a hotel. I mean, I figured that was the easiest thing to do. Back when you still found jobs in newspapers, I opened up the newspaper and I saw that there was a water sports company on the island that my mom lived on that was hiring at Hawks Cay Resort. And I went and presented myself over at this water sports operation in a pair of cowboy boots and Wrangler jeans, the belt buckle, the whole 9 yards. I walked up to the desk and you can imagine these guys and girls are all in flip-flops, sunburned, longer hair, things like that, right? So I present myself there, tell them I understand they're looking for work. The guy behind the desk kind of snickered at me a little bit looking at my attire and said, you got to go talk to that guy over there. That guy over there was JP, the owner of the company. And we sat down there and chatted, and he's, of course, looking me up and down. I'm probably the only guys in the Keys that day wearing cowboy boots and Wranglers. Yeah. Looking back on it now, like, it really makes me laugh. So anyhow, he asked me if I'd had any experience around boats or parasailing or anything like that. And I said, no, really the only experience I've had on a boat is riding the ferry across the ship channel. He asked me what I did, and I told him I rodeoed. And he looked at me and said, come back tomorrow. I suggest that you wear a pair of flip-flops and a bathing suit.
You're going to get wet.
Yeah. So I showed back up the next day, and he literally gave me a key to a boat and said, go move that boat over there, figure it out. And then just, it went from there.
Trial by fire.
A trial by fire, right? So I'm supposed to be in the Keys for 6 weeks, right? This is supposed to be a little summer thing in between college semesters. Fast forward 6 months. My mom looks at me and says, you're basically a grown man at this point living at home. You've worn out your time here. Right. This was a 6-week deal. It's now Thanksgiving. We love you, but it's time. So you got two choices. You can go back to school and I'll help you with that process financially, etc. Or you can go get a trade and you're on your own. You're an adult. And I thought, well, man, 19, 20, whatever all that was. Yeah, getting taken care of sounds good. So I go back and enroll for the January semester at Harvard on the Highway, the junior college in Pasadena. And by February, I was done. I had my truck in the U-Haul loaded up and had gone back down to the Keys and actually moved in with the guy that owned the place. The water sports operation, went right back to work there and became a full-time employee. Within maybe a year or so, I obtained my first captain's license. I had a 6-pack captain's license. My stepfather, Lee, was a big proponent of that and somebody that kind of pushed me and helped kind of spur that, if you will. He's a charter captain down there, obviously being on boats and whatnot. That was the next step. But he was definitely the one that really helped me and pushed me along, and I actually stayed with his mother in Coral Springs while I got my test. I did that for, I don't know, 3 or 4 years and started learning about all these other opportunities in boating. And that led to getting jobs on private yachts and living in South France, Spain, places like that, and then crewing on boats over there, and then doing the same thing on the East Coast of the United States.
So how was it working on yachts?
It was not like Below Decks, but kind of like Below Decks. Insofar as the partying and the things they showcase on shows like that right now that make for interesting TV, some of that stuff is going on, right? You're in gorgeous locations. You work a lot. It is not a young it is a young person's game. You are on all day, and if there is an owner or a charter guest on board, you are really on. So it's high. It can be very fun. I got to travel the world on somebody else's boat at their expense, right? While being paid for it. It was a great thing.
Right.
It definitely started wearing on me after a while. There's no retirement program or anything like that with that, right? So that kind of transitioned me into looking into the commercial sector. And actually, my grandfather worked on the docks in Houston and was managing warehousing and thousands of foot of dock space. So I understood, about the commercial shipping industry and tugboats and things like that. So I then kind of transitioned into working in the commercial area, worked on ships all over the world. And now you have a career, right? Not that yachting's not a career. There's most certain people out there doing it, but the path and the options in that commercial sector are just better. And so I did that for quite some time. I don't remember how many years I did that.
So what's like a typical schedule when you're on a yacht, if you have a typical schedule?
Okay, so like owner in town, right? So before the sun comes up, before anybody is up on that boat, owner-wise or charter guest-wise, the crew is up. That it's being wiped down, breakfasts and meals are being prepared by the stew. The captain's running the show. I was a mate on the last yacht I worked on. So I basically kind of ran the deck, if you will, at the direction of the captain. So I would get up in the morning, deal with drying the boat off, things like that, and then preparing for the day's activities. The day activity, maybe just taking the dinghy and putting it in the water or the tender, and driving around with that and doing skiing or something, or pulling the tubes or whatnot, or it may include taking the whole boat, the yacht and all the toys, and anchoring up in a cove. And underway, there is guest services involved. There's obviously the navigation of the vessel taking place. And then you get to maybe Anchorage and anchor up, serve some lunch, get all the toys in the water. It's a process, right? You're taking boats, 10, 15 foot boats up top of a yacht, putting it in the water, getting all the toys and everything together. And then entertaining and doing all those things, landing on a beach, whatever. And then everything's got to come back on board, all the process of that, the cranes, the lines, just dealing with that. And then you get back to the dock. Well, now the boat's dirty because you've been on it all day. So now we got to wash it down. It's not like washing a car. It's not a 30-minute process, and everything is dried by hand, top to bottom. So that would be kind of a normal, and then you got dinner service, you got turn down service. It is around the clock. Owners aren't on board, and you got to move the yacht or something like that. That was when I really enjoyed it. I enjoy guest interaction. I love people and talking and learning about folks, but moving the boats was the thing I always liked the best. Navigating, making voyage plans, figuring out where we're going, things like that. So those days or weeks, whatever, depending on how far you're moving the boat, is very much mariner and boating skills and navigating that boat and dealing, standing your watch, docking, undocking, and all the things that go along with that.
That seems like it could be pretty interesting, but like you said, not like an older person thing, because you just like constantly go. I could see how it could wear you out after doing it for a couple years.
Right, and then you like into the commercial side, you very much have. There's a structured watch schedule, right? There are 4-hour watches on commercial ships. Where you can't work more than 12 hours a day per Coast Guard regulations. You're technically not supposed to on yachts either, but whatever. Yeah, this is the reality of it, right? So that schedule is still tough, right? I mean, you're at sea, you're away from your families, you're working, you're doing all those same things, but it's a little more of a structured schedule.
Right. And then what year was it when you transitioned over to commercial?
Oh, let's see. So I probably did. I turned 25 on my first ship. So whatever year I turned 25. So I graduated in '96. I think somewhere early 2000 maybe.
Okay. And then how long did you do commercial?
So I worked on commercial ships for about 2 years, and basically each time I would go to a union hall in Texas, and you basically sit there and wait on a job based upon your seniority and your deck position, and so it could take a couple weeks or it could take a couple months, and then you would go get on a ship for anywhere from a couple weeks to a couple months, depending on what the run was.
These commercial ships, what type of, like when I think commercial ship, I just think of like the
Container ship, right?
container ship. Yeah,
So-
big like Maersk. Yeah, Maersk.
Yeah, so very much. I never personally worked on any container ships.
Okay.
I always ended up on either civilian crewed military ships or tankers.
Okay.
So basically, like you're thinking, but instead of having containers stacked up on the deck, we had basically a hold that was carrying oil. We were carrying refined product, basically. Yeah. And then what a lot of folks don't know is that the military moves a lot of its cargo on civilian crewed ships through the Maritime Securities Program and various other things. So I spent 2 tours. I took one ship from Beaumont to Tacoma, Washington. That was a military ship, and then I stayed on a offshore petroleum discharge tanker in Diego Garcia. Diego Garcia is smack dab in the middle of the Indian Ocean.
My uncle was stationed there for like 3 years.
No way, what years?
This would have been when I was in high school, so
It's probably about the same time I was there.
like close before 2010, maybe like in that 05 to 2009-ish.
That'd have been right in my realm over there.
That's crazy. That's small world.
The fact I could tell you, it was Diego Garcia that said it.
Okay.
So I was on an offshore petroleum discharge boat over there for a while, or ship. And then when I came off of that one, the opportunity came to work on a harbor tug in Corpus, and that was something I always wanted to do. That is one path to becoming a ship's pilot. That's kind of considered to be the pinnacle of that career and industry.
Those dudes get paid a lot.
They do. It's nice. So I started going down that path, and all along this time, I'm increasing my captain's license based upon tonnage. You've got to serve on certain vessels and certain waterways to obtain certain licenses. So I did what they call come up the hawse pipe, if you will. You can either go to an academy, Maritime Academy, Mass Maritime, Maine Maritime, Cal Maritime, A&M, and Galveston, and you come out with either a third officer's license for the deck department or the engineer. Okay. The other way is to go up the hawse pipe, basically climb the anchor chain. And that you obtain it by testing with the Coast Guard directly and obtaining the sea time and requisite experience. So I did tugboats in Corpus for a while, 4 or 5 years, and then the economy fell out. 2008, give or take. I'm now living down there with my wife, Molly, and that was a scary time for everybody, right? I'm in my early 30s. I'm supposed to be catching my stride. I'm on this trajectory to become a bar pilot, or I'm trying to be, and there's no guarantee of this. This is what I'm trying to do. This is my goal. And it's starting to look like it may not happen because we're not moving as many ships. Oil was $150 a barrel, and it drops to $40, $50 a barrel. Ships are laying up. Nobody's using the product, right?
Right.
So that shifted us up to downtown Houston. My wife and I we rode the recession out in Houston. I left working on tugboats and obtained a job for the Maritime Union that was representing me on all these various commercial vessels, and became an official for them, helping negotiate labor contracts, dealing with labor disputes with Maersk Lines and those companies, just like you were talking about a minute ago. Going to the ships when they would come into port, making sure that our crew had been taken care of, making sure they'd been paid off appropriately, because you don't need a lot of money at sea, right? So you get paid off a lot of times at the end. Right. So we go and handle those, just to handle any disputes with the captains right there on site at the ship, and make sure that when I left, that all crew was good.
It's interesting. We're backtrack a little bit.
Yeah, go.
How did you meet Molly?
So I rent parasail boats in the Keys, as I was saying. Living in the Keys, my buddies Moose and Kurt told us about Hilton Head. My buddy Eric and I were down there. As you can imagine, as a 20-something-year-old boat captain, there's a little bit of cockiness involved. And they basically said, you guys think you're good parasail captains, you go up to Hilton Head and you go fly in Calabogie Sound, in this little sound, after being in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean where you can go wherever you want, and reduce that down to about a mile. And you go do that all summer and fly for 12 hours a day, 50, 60 people a day, and then you've done it, right? So I got a job up here working for Island Water Sports, and I absolutely fell in love with Hilton Head then. I was 24 because I turned 25 on my first ship, so I'm 24. And back then, Labor Day, this place shut down. It wasn't quite the year-round destination it is today. Right. You can go lay in the middle of 278 in October, right? It's not the case anymore. So definitely, I didn't want to leave Hilton Head because I really enjoyed it here, and I had I'd made some good friends. And so a friend said, "Man, why don't you ride a taxi for S&J Taxi? It's super easy. It's not like being a New York City taxi driver." Come to find out, it's not. You basically drive tourists around. You drive the F&B people around, and then you pick up drunk tourists and sometimes locals. One of those days, I happened to pick up a few young ladies from the Triangle. If you don't know where that is, it's over near the gates of Sea Pines, and was quite the hopping area for some time, and still is. But anyhow, I picked Molly and a couple of her girlfriends up from the Triangle and took them over to Monkey Business at Park Plaza. I don't know why they didn't walk, but I'm kind of glad they didn't at this point. It's not a very far trip. On that trip, I talked to anybody. I enjoyed conversing with people and asking questions and learning and talking. And so chatted up with these young ladies. One of them they all get out. One of them comes back and says, "Man, my girlfriend thinks you're cute." And I'm like, "Your girlfriend's cute too, but I'm dating somebody right now." And she's like, "Well, here's her number." And I'm like, "Thank you," and moved on about my day. And I was kind of not taken aback, but it's called smitten for stop searching for words. So I called a buddy. I'm like, "Man, this blonde girl in my taxi last night." And he goes, "I know who that is. That's Molly." I'm like, "Really?" I'm like, "Tell me more about it." So I continued dating the same girl I was dating for a while, and fast forward maybe a couple years, I'd finished my time working on ships, and I was getting ready to start working on tugboats in Corpus. And being tugboats, you're 4 days on, 4 days off, where shipping, you're 4 or 5 months at a time gone. So I now needed a place to stay. I'd been storing all my stuff at my friend's house on Hilton Head. And I was coming out to pick all these things up to move back to Hilton Head. To move to Padre Island, North Padre Island in Texas, where I was running tugboats in Corpus Harbor. I had saved that telephone number all those years. And another thing called MySpace had come about in that time. Remember MySpace?
Oh, I remember MySpace.
So being the kind of, I don't know, not afraid to get out there in front of somebody, I just sent a quick little message on MySpace to Molly and said, "Is anybody looking for a taxi around here?" And
pickup line years in the making.
I mean, I worked on that one for a while, right? So anyhow, she responded. She actually happened to be in town the weekend I was here. She was a student at College of Charleston at this point. Mm-hmm. And so we connected, and we went out to Riders. We went and had some sushi dinners. So we did all the thing 20-something-year-olds do on Hilton Head back then. And I thought I was going back to Texas to run tugboats and be a tugboat captain, hopefully eventually a bar pilot and a beach bum. I wanted to surf and kite surf and live on the beach and run boats. As Molly left, my friend Eric and Andrea, my best friends, we moved up here together originally to run boats. She looked at me and said, "You're going to marry that girl someday." And I won't say verbatim what I said, but I basically told her she was crazy with a few extra adjectives in there, that I was not getting married anytime soon. Well, about, I don't know, a couple days or maybe a few weeks later, I'm on the phone with Molly saying, I would really like if you would come out and visit me in Texas for a weekend, and the rest is history.
So she was right.
She was right. And if Andrea ever watches this, I hate to admit when Andrea is right.
All right, so you're in Houston, riding out the recession.
Yep.
What's next?
All right, so Molly and I are, she graduates college and actually moves down to Corpus with me, or North Padre Island. We're living in this little 2-bedroom condo I'd bought. So we move up to Houston, and we both had great jobs. We had good jobs with our retirement programs and our benefits and our time off and all these things. And it was great. And we had a great group of friends, and we enjoyed our lives. But we missed one thing that we both had in our blood, and that was being on the coast. I mean, yes, Houston is on the coast, but it's still 50 miles from the coast, right? So it's an hour plus to get to the beach. This is back. Molly grew up on the island. So we looked at each other one day and said, "What are we doing? Well, we're doing what we're supposed to do, but we're not doing what we want to do. We're not doing what we want to do."
Right.
So we came up with a plan to basically pay off all our debt and save up a year's worth of bills and move. And we broke out a map. And basically, it had to be on the coast, and it had to be on the East Coast. My mom is in the Keys. I wanted to get close to her. I'm very close to my mom, stepdad Lee. So Outer Banks to the Keys was in play, and we just kind of started whittling it down, and all along, I knew that I either wanted to get into something performance-based and still service-oriented, because I really enjoy chatting with people. So my mom's in real estate in the Keys, and so I had kind of background knowledge of the schedule, the unflexibility, but the flexibility of it, the earning potential, the unlimited earning potential, quite frankly, and all those different things. So I knew about that, and we decided that Hilton Head was going to be the place, because Molly, by growing up here, had a network here. And for me, from running boats here, that same network had most of them drifted out of boats and got into construction and the other ancillary businesses that make our island run. So we packed up our stuff and moved back to Hilton Head in 2012, I guess.
Yeah. It's crazy the draw this place has on people. Like, once you come here, like once or twice, it's just like, and you come back.
So it's funny. A little anecdotal story. Side note is Molly and I got married at her childhood home. My in-laws, Mike and Debbie, Mike's been on the island since the first drawbridge was built in the mid-60s. My mother-in-law, 36, 38 years, however long. Mike's been in the same house since he grew up. It's a beautiful place on the marsh overlooking the sound, and we got married in the gazebo there. And after the rehearsal dinner, I was taking my mom and Lee back to the condo they were staying at over on Forest Beach. And as we're going through the Sea Pine Circle, I remember her looking. I mean, she lives in the Keys, right? I mean, it's the Caribbean in the U.S., for lack of a better way of explaining it.
Yeah.
And I remember looking at me going, "I can see why you love this place." And Molly and I hadn't even talked about leaving Houston at this point, and I looked at her and I said, "Oh, I will live here again someday." I mean, I think I think the map breaking out and thinking that was just to say we did it. I think we kind of always knew that this is where this is coming.
Totally get that. So then you guys moved back here. You said 2012?
Yeah, right around 2012.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then what's next?
Real estate. And I dove head first into real estate. And I haven't looked back on that part.
Did you guys have kids yet?
No, we didn't. We were married for almost 8 or 9 years without kids.
Okay.
Yeah, we really enjoy it. We traveled a lot together. We did a lot. We still do a lot with our kids and travel and whatnot. But yeah, we did the married thing and just enjoyed life.
What was your favorite spot that you guys traveled to before you kissed?
Costa Rica. I really enjoy Costa Rica. I like to surf. It is a huge passion of mine. I find the Costa Rican and the Spanish people in general to just be very welcoming, family-oriented. Just they share a lot of the same values I do. And then you throw that on top of the surf, and I'm like, this is great. I mean, it's consistent surf. It's warm. I don't have to worry about a wetsuit. I hate cold weather. I hate putting wetsuits on. I get very seasonal depressed.
I'm right there with you.
Yeah. I'm finally coming out of it, starting to warm up.
Thank God our winter is only like a month out.
I know.
Okay, we'd be bad if you're still up north.
Yeah, I can't imagine digging snow and dealing with all that stuff.
Not for me.
Yeah.
So how did your first couple years in real estate go?
It's hard. I will say this. I have worked on all kinds of boats. I've been around all kinds of different personalities. I've been in subordinate roles and I've been in leadership roles on those vessels. And having to deal with that was a lot. And having to be a 20-something-year-old long-haired hippie in the Texas, asking somebody that's twice your age that's been on tugboats 3 times as long as you have and telling them and asking them what to do, or really directing them what to do, can be challenging. And it really helped me hone my leadership skills. It might be a little rough around the edges and crass for some people sometimes. No, but no, it helped with that. Selling real estate is difficult, and you're not selling. I shouldn't even say selling real estate. I'm not selling anything. I learned that real quick. I'm not like selling and convincing anybody to do anything they don't want to do, right? So learning the process, learning the nuance of our industry and getting hit between the eyes and not knowing, right? And having to learn that was hard. The rejection, then the phone calls, the no's, all that stuff is real. This is by far one of the hardest things I've ever had to do to get to a point where I feel like I'm always learning, but to feel like I've reached a certain level of success, if you will, with it. It took me way longer and I believe way more hours than obtaining that same level of success in the boating industry and maritime was.
It's a very difficult but rewarding at the same time.
It is, you know. I really enjoy the problem solving part, right? I mean, that's where you get hit in the eyes and figure out, and that's where you learn, right? That's when you take your lumps. Because when things go bad, that's when you really earn your keep.
For sure.
But when it's done and you see that person who's sold a property, get those resources from that property and go get to do their next thing and see the happiness in that and them achieving that goal is very rewarding. And on the flip side, on the buying side, I love when my clients use their places, their second homes, or if they're not here full time or whatever, and actually going and seeing them after the fact and seeing them enjoy this place and feel connected to our community the way I do.
Yep.
It's very rewarding. It makes all the other ones just little war stories you tell and you know, shop stories and whatnot, and kind of, you know, learning experience along the way.
Do you have, so this is normally a question I ask later in the interview, but do you have any funny stories?
Let's see. I don't think I mean, some of the funny stuff that's happened is some of it has probably been funny. Some of it's been in a program. I know one. When I first started, I was touring homes. On Wednesdays, you can go out and tour homes and whatnot. They're opened up, whatever day it was, it doesn't matter. We were out touring homes, and the other agent I was with decided to use the bathroom in the house. This agent did not check to see if the water was on before they used the restroom. And so that kind of created a problem, as you can see.
Yep.
So we're sitting there, and he comes out of the restroom, and I'm turning off lights, like, all right, let's go to the next place. And he's like, this has happened. And I'm like, okay. Luckily, we were in a home that's in one of our waterfront communities. So I directed this agent, or said, this would be my suggestion. I would go find a pot in the kitchen, and I would go get some water from the marina. And I would pour that water in the back of the toilet, and I would flush the toilet. Which is what they did.
There you go.
Is that what you're looking for?
Yep, that's a good story.
That one makes me laugh every time I think about it. The look on his face when he came out, like he'd seen a ghost.
So another agent we had on, he was showing a property to somebody, and they really had to go see the property with their dog because they had to make sure the dog liked the property. Yeah. And open the lockbox, open the door, person let the dog off the leash, was like, go see it. The dog runs right in, goes to the bathroom, right on the floor. And the owner was walking out of the door right as it happened.
Oh my God.
Super awkward situation.
That's pretty awkward.
But what he was saying, and I was like, oops. So those two stories, they both right now stick in my head.
Yeah, that's that'd be pretty embarrassing.
So, been in real estate now since 2012. When did you start getting into, since right now you were on the legislative committee?
Correct. So I'm
correctly
the chair of the state Realtor, the South Carolina Realtors Legislative Committee. So basically all items that are quality of life or property rights, basically anything in the lane of real estate and within the lane of our mission statement and strategic plan of the state association that would be legislative and or regulatory kind of runs through the committee that I...
When did you know that you wanted to get into stuff like that?
So I've always kind of gravitated to smaller offices, but I also realized that I needed to have rapport not only with clients, but I needed to know the agents I was working around. And being in a small office, you don't get access to the big office, a bunch of people, right?
Right.
So I joined the legislative committee. I've always enjoyed politics, and policy, and I mean that's what makes stuff go forward. That's how advance and move legislation and things like that. So I've always kind of had an interest in that. So I joined our local legislative committee. I was on there for a couple years, and quite honestly, somebody that I think you may know, Cindy Creamer, kind of identified me, if you will, at a meeting one day. We just started chatting. Then let me back up a little bit on that. Molly and Courtney grew up together.
Okay.
And when I say they grew up together, my mother-in-law drove them both to school every day.
Okay.
4 years. And I think that my mother-in-law used to let them drink Cokes and drink sugar and do stuff like that. And I'm pretty sure that Cindy was not super cool with that, but I think it just happened. It's kind of happened with my mother-in-law.
Cindy, don't listen.
Yeah, this thing's happened with my mother-in-law. So anyway, I'm sorry, back at where we're leadership. How did I get it?
Yeah.
At that point, Cindy was in leadership at the association and asked if I wanted to chair that committee at some point. And I said, sure. Stepped up and chaired that committee, which led to candidate screening, which kind of had me in with the other leaders of our organization. And I realized, once again, kind of like I was talking about being in Costa Rica, I found that these folks shared the same values I did of servant leaders. And my family has always been involved. My dad was involved with the Bar Association before he passed. My mom involved with the Optimist and all the different programs. My grandfather was in there. So the people in my family, I've always seen them do things. So I just, this is what you do. And so I started serving as the legislative chair locally, which in turn, like I said, exposed all those other things. And once you kind of raise your hand and once you stick your head up with stuff like that, you become identified as somebody who will serve and who will give their time. And I'm willing to do that and enjoy doing it. And so that kind of started me down that path, and that eventually turned to me being on the executive or the board of directors of the Hilton Head Association, and subsequently board of directors and through the executive committee of that as well, and finished off as the president in 2019 of our local association.
Do you foresee yourself doing more, I don't want to say like more expansive roles, like not just like state stuff, like national stuff, or you just gonna like continue with state stuff?
So I do subscribe to kind of all politics are local, right? And, and especially with what affects our daily life, like really affects our daily life here on Hilton Head in the state of South Carolina.
Yep.
So I will always stay engaged as much as I can, as long as they will let me in that process here. I currently serve on the public policy committee of NAR as well. I'm just a committee member there. It's effectively, they don't have the same legislative committee that we have here, or structure, if you will, but it's essentially the same type of role as a committee member at the national level. So I've already kind of ventured into that space, if you will, for the same reason. It basically helps to advance legislation that is beneficial for homeowners and property rights and quality of life. So as far as where it goes, I think opportunities present themselves. You see opportunities, doors open. Sometimes you got to kick a door down. But no, I definitely, I see myself as a volunteer and leader. And whether it's at the state, national, or local association, or through one of our town committees or charities I serve on, I can't imagine not being engaged in that process.
Makes sense. What are some of the things that I don't want to say issues, but things that are at hand right now that you guys might be working on, discussing?
Yeah, so I can point to some direct legislation we're trying to advance at the state association right now. Most everything we're doing right now is purely focused on consumer protections and private property rights. So we'll start private property rights. There's a bill that we push forward every year or every legislative cycle that deals with private petroleum pipeline companies and their ability to use eminent domain to capture land for these private profit-producing projects. That's an infringement on private property rights. So we fight that every single session, and we get it through, and it forbids private companies from being able to come and take somebody's land somewhere to turn a profit.
Right.
So that's something that we work on every year. Right now, we're in the middle of a license law. So real estate agents in the state of South Carolina are subject, and we are bound to the Real Estate Practice Act. Basically, what governs us and how we do business are the laws, regulations, and that are promulgated that we're subject to. Some consumer protection stuff that we're looking to do there is wholesaling. This is a practice in which somebody would offer you maybe, let's use round numbers for sake, $100,000 for your house, but your house is actually worth $200,000. So you may not be as versed on something. They're seeking out certain demographics and areas of our state. This is not just happening in our state. It's all over the country right now. But basically, they're coming in. I'm going to give you $100,000 for your house, and then I'm going to turn around and I'm going to represent that I have this house for sale. But I really don't have a house for sale. I have a position in a contract. But I'm going to represent it as I have a house for sale, and I'm going to sell it to you for $200,000. So on closing day, I take and give Grandma $100,000, and I then sell that position in the contract to you and take the other $100,000. You can see where that, and there's people that are getting postcards every single day to this effect. They're getting written contracts delivered in the mail.
I see people all the time on social media, like offering to sell courses on like how to do it.
Yeah, I mean, it is
like filming themselves cold calling these people.
Yeah.
And
It's predatory. They are seeking out certain subsects of our population on purpose. And so we are basically if our new license law is enacted, which we hope it is, we've got favorable reading, now we're onto the floor. So that would forbid that from taking place. Another predatory thing is long-term listing agreements. Actually, the state of Chicago, their attorneys general has just sued one of the companies that's participating in this practice. What we kind of call them long-term listing agreements. So once again, they're seeking out certain populations, certain areas for bad reasons. And they're going in and offering you about 0.1% of your home's value on the front end, maybe $1,000, $2,000, something like that.
Right.
But they have the guarantee that if you ever sell that house, they're going to obtain a fee, whether you use them or not. And they're not only having you sign that agreement, they're then going down to the county court and clerk and filing an encumbrance on your property. So that if you've forgotten about this 10 years down the road, how many years down the road, it comes up. And now you've got to address this issue. So that Real Estate Practices Act, the changes would affect that as well. So the last deal is the advertisement of teams and real estate teams, and making sure that the consumer knows who the brokerage is, so that if there is, because we're not all perfect. We all have issues in transactions sometimes, and the broker in charge is there to help navigate those issues and make sure that everything is done according to the law, and that those clients and customers are satisfied with the outcome within the confines of our law. And if you don't know who that person is to reach out to, you don't know how to go get your recourse. So it's been cool to be involved in the process of an industry that is perceived as being very self-serving a lot of times, but when you start pulling back the curtains and looking behind the scenes, it's quite the opposite. And so to be a part of that and to help actually protect consumers, I think it's really cool.
I agree. Like, before getting into working in the real estate industry, like, I had some of the same perceptions that a lot of people do. Like, what do they actually do? And now that actually working with agents constantly on a daily basis, you guys do way more than people think you do.
Oh yeah,
it's crazy sometimes. Like, some of the stuff you guys actually do that like make sure transactions continue to go forward, and protecting the consumer and making sure people don't get like gypped out of money or scammed.
Yeah, it's very
important.
I look at myself as a professional advisor. I am here to see the pitfalls in front of us, to help us walk around them. Sometimes you can't avoid them, right? There's this personality involved with contracts. There's the black and white, and there's that part, and then you throw some personality on top of it, right? Yep. And navigating that is the challenging part, but it is also the fun part too, because that's the problem solving part.
Yep.
So, yeah, it's crazy the things I've done over the years, and garages I've cleaned out, the cable box. I mean, there's just all kinds of things that you do to, one is just providing a high exceptional level of service, and two, your job is to get the place either bought for somebody or sold for somebody, and you got to do what it takes to get it done.
So I'm a little over my skis here going into like the rules and regulations about that stuff, so I'm gonna pivot.
Yeah.
We'll save that episode. Maybe you and Daniel and Cindy could do a podcast.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
That'd be interesting. Where do you see yourself going in the future, like next 5 years, like with real estate, with politics, family? What do you guys got?
Okay, so
pipeline.
With pipeline. So work-wise, I really hope in the next 5 years that being with doing real estate and the support staff here, I'm going to be able to shift more focus onto those client services we were just talking about.
Yep.
So that I can, that's what I'm good at. That's what I know. That's my lane, right? So being able to hone in and really continue to find ways to provide more exceptional service to my clients. And then hopefully that, I'm in business. I hope that it increases my revenue and production. I run a business out of Dunes Real Estate effectively, right? So that is obviously, hopefully the outcome of that growth and that support. Politically, I don't know. I can't imagine myself not serving in some capacity professionally and as well as at a charitable organization. Right now I serve on the board of the Outside Foundation. Our main mission is getting every 7th grader in Beaufort County on the water in a kayak, and then beach cleanups and things like that. So water is clearly a passion of mine, surfing, kiting. So in that realm, I don't know that I'll ever be a politician per se, but I could very much see myself hopefully serving on some town committees at some point, and just continuing to serve where I can and hopefully add value to the conversation and help. I would say that nothing of this stuff happens in a silo, and nobody does anything on their own. They're standing on the shoulders of somebody else who came before them and before them and before them. And I hope that I can stand on somebody else's shoulders that has done the same things and make it a little better. And then somebody come jump on my shoulders eventually.
I respect that.
Yeah. Family-wise, I got 2 feral kids, man. I'm just trying to survive.
How old are they now?
So Cash just turned 4, and Clementine will be 7 in September of this year. They are both spunky like me. They're both a little hard-headed like their mama. I hope she sees that.
I'll clip that part for you and send it to you.
I appreciate that, actually. No, but I really, I hope to instill in my kids the value of service and leadership. I really think that that's important. To get them surfing and kite surfing, and everybody wants their kids to be in the same things they are. I'm going to expose them to it, but let them do what they want, right? Molly and I have a travel trailer that we use quite a bit. We've driven to California and back. We're going to Cape Cod this summer. I would really like to do the lower 48, all 48 states in the next couple of years. We've already knocked off quite a few. We're going to knock off some even more this summer on our trip. So I definitely have that adventurous spirit and love for travel and seeing new places, meeting new people and all that. So if I could expose my kids to leadership and why it's important, and expose them to places other than Hilton Head, because we do live in a bubble here. I love our bubble, and I like to come I love to drive over there. Everybody has the same thing, right? You drive over the bridges onto the island. You see the marsh off to the left and the right. There's an eagle that's been nesting in the telephone or power poles for a while. I mean, it did a kid back in my bubble, right? But it's good to get out of this one every once in a while and be exposed, and I really hope that I can continue to do that with my kids.
I totally get that. Whenever I go somewhere and then I come back, it's just oh, I'm here.
Yeah.
I do like this. This is home. It's driving over the bridge.
Yeah.
It's
the bridge thing, right?
Yeah. Seeing the marsh, especially at high tide, is...
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
You can't really beat it. This place is beautiful. So as we start to wrap up, I'm going to hit you with some rapid fire,
right?
This or that. Okay. And if you want to elaborate on why you chose whatever you chose, you can. If not, we'll move to the next one. So I think I might already know the answer to this, but beach or boat?
Oh, man. You start with that?
Yep.
Beach. All right. Okay. And I gotta elaborate on that. Okay. But I love being on boats. Boats were my career for a while, right?
Yep.
There became a time where I would go to the Keys and I wouldn't want to go fish or whatnot because I'd been on the tugboat for days and I'm stinking like diesel and whatnot. So I love being on the water. I love taking my kids on the boat, landing on the beach in Defusky and playing and doing all those things, fishing, getting up in the marsh at high tide and fly fishing and all that. But the beach is where I can kite surf and where I can surf, and my wife can be there when it's happening.
Okay. Surf or turf?
Turf. I'm a meat and potatoes guy.
I'm right there with you.
Give me a ribeye, make it bloody, give me some potatoes, and let's roll.
Cool. Golf or tennis?
I can swing a golf club. I've played tennis a little bit. I'd actually like to learn to play tennis. Molly and I have actually chatted about trying to learn. I played a lot of golf with my grandfather. My grandfather in Pasadena, Texas, was a formidable force in my life and somebody that I looked up to and modeled myself after. And there was a period of time that I was working on tugboats when I first started. I wasn't doing 4 days on, 4 days off. I was 8 days on, 8 days off. I actually stayed with my grandparents. And during this time, making sure I liked it before I bought a house in the area and all that. And I got to play golf with my grandfather and his cronies at this old school country club in Texas. We teed off at sunrise, and we were having breakfast with my grandmother at 10:30 in the morning.
That is the best golf.
They played ready golf. I mean, it was almost like playing polo out of a golf cart, basically. Yep. They don't look for balls. They just grab another one out of the bag, But I really enjoyed playing golf with my grandfather, and the memories. So anytime I get on the golf course, it really does tee up those memories. Pun intended on that.
We're going to clip that and get on social media. All right. What was the last full book you read?
Last full book. Richard Branson, Losing My Virginity. Richard Branson's a really cool person and somebody that I look up to in the entrepreneurial and the adventure world. That guy does cool stuff.
He's the founder of
Virgin Airlines.
Yeah, Virgin Airlines.
And he's done things like, number one, he kite surf.
He went to space, didn't he?
Yeah, we got his space. He's been around the world on balloons. He's crashed in the middle of the ocean on balloons. I mean, his books are good. His story, he is somebody I look up to in that realm.
Cool. And last, where can people find you?
Where can they find me? You can find me at the Dunes Real Estate Office in Palmetto Dunes off 6 Queens Folly Road. You can find me at Cruising with the Kinards on Facebook, Instagram, and social media, or you can just call me at 843-301-0814.
Cool. Brian, thanks for your time today.
Thanks for having us. This has been a lot of fun, man.
Yeah. We'll do another one sometime soon.
Please.
Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time.